What's up, Change the Channel podcast listeners? My name is Megan Grace, and this is another episode of Change the Channel podcast. Welcome back to the show. On today's episode, I am so excited to just unpack with you this download that I had. It's all about words, and it's all about words specifically connected to emotions. And I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes emotions are more of a cognitive thing. They're more something to analyze or itemize or like that kind of thing. And so I really love it when my guides are I don't know, when they understand how to speak to me in a way that makes sense with my more logical mind, if that makes sense. So bear with me on this rabbit trail, and hopefully along the path, something might illuminate also for you, because this feels very timely, very much in the collective. And I've been having a lot of conversations with people in my life that matter to me dearly that are all kind of circling around the same topic. Well, the download itself came to me when I was having brunch with one of my dear friends. We were celebrating a big milestone in her life, and we were just talking about relationships, and we were talking about the feelings of both jealousy and insecurity. And as I was talking with her, it felt like I went from talking about her situation to talking about things that I'm moving through and healing in my own life. And whenever that happens, it feels just like a little bit of like a spirit's nudge being like, yeah, we're all in this dance right now. This is the dance that we're doing. So we're going to dance a little bit with the concept of insecurity and jealousy. Now, I will say historically, the channel that I feel whenever I'm thinking about being insecure or being jealous is that I'm somehow, that I need to just get over it. Does that resonate with anyone else? Like, just get over it. Or, there's almost this superiority feeling of being like, well, I'm not a jealous type, or I don't feel insecure. I love myself, and I, feel confident, and all these things, as if to say that you can't be both confident and feel insecurity at the same time, or that you can't be a person that tends to not feel jealousy, but sometimes jealousy comes forward as a messenger to you. And what I was realizing is, as I compartmentalize myself into being a person that either feels these things or does not, I'm limiting my capacity to connect, number one, with myself, whatever need that emotion is bringing forward. And also, it makes me feel disconnected from other people too, because, all of a sudden I've created this sorting hat space of those that feel insecure and those that do not. So I'm just going to jump in, if you can imagine, because I love a good imagery. Me and my darling friend are sitting over a beautiful spread of brunch with, delicious vegan gravy over like yummy eggs, and there's beautiful fruit and the biggest kind of platter round thing of hash browns. And I desperately needed coffee that day. I couldn't even form a sentence until I had some black coffee in my hands. So we're in this cafe. There's the bustling feeling of people around. And then we just started talking about, the feelings of feeling insecure. And what I was realizing about this is, number one, there is a feeling of loss of power. Whenever I step into a space where I'm feeling insecure, somehow I feel like I don't have access to my true power. And it's as if my footing is off, or, kind of like the way I feel on roller skates where you're just sort of waiting to tumble. And anytime we're in a space where we don't feel connected to our power, that can lead to feelings of potential embarrassment. And embarrassment is actually just unconsensual vulnerability. It's the feeling of, I didn't want people to see me sort of stumble. I like to be able to say when I'm going to be having a vulnerable moment. Usually it's in some kind of like pretty ceremony space, and there's incense, and there are all these context clues that say that it is okay to kind of break down a little bit. I say in jest because, let's be honest, that rarely is the time when the stuff happens. It happens in the middle of brunch. It happens when we're with our friends. It happens when we're developing new relationships. That new relationship energy is so like fueling and electric, and also it plugs in and highlights and shows up the spaces where maybe we haven't felt secure before. But when we're by ourselves, we're not having to navigate different footing. We're not having to be witnessed as we navigate different footing. We can stay sort of siloed in our own space. And so the insecurity oftentimes, again, comes when we're stepping into a new level, or a new footing, or a new relationship, or so the first sort of change the channel reframe that I was thinking is, what if when insecurity comes in, instead of thinking of myself as powerless, what if I start to think of myself as brave? Because what if bravery started to become interwoven with the feelings of insecurity? Because when I'm feeling insecure, it means that I'm moving outside of what I've always known. And if I'm moving outside of what I've always known, then that takes bravery to do. And I have the option to either lean in and step in, or step back. Both are options. Neither is right or wrong. But insecurity, that feeling of being not secure, lets me know that my footing is changing. Does that feel freeing to anyone else? That instead of thinking that I need to walk around like some kind of stable, rooted, redwood tree trying to navigate the world, what if it's okay if sometimes the ground feels slippery, and it's because I'm moving into something new? Because Lord knows, if we're not moving into something new, then stagnancy kicks in. And I think I might actually prefer to be insecure over feeling stagnant. Jury's still out. Let me know what you think about that. So that was step one, thinking about, our connection to powerless, to our power, and reframing from I'm a problem because I'm insecure to I'm brave because I'm stepping into new footing. The next thing that was coming through about insecurity is oftentimes it's a barometer of not our connection to the other person. Because for context, in this brunch, we were talking about relationships. I just for the first time in a very long time, am in a new relationship. And all of a sudden this stuff is like coming to the surface, and all these things that I thought that I had handled and managed and taken care of are becoming front and center regularly. I'm very grateful because this particular partner of mine is so supportive and helpful, and I'm learning a lot through him. I'll probably quote some of his one-liners because, man, they just hit. They hit different in a beautiful way. So me and my friend were talking about relationships, and we were talking about when we feel insecure with, in partnership or, with our friends. And basically what started to come through to me is that the feeling of insecurity also, it comes from a feeling of the world outside, the dynamic of something that I'm seeing is leading me to not feel like I can trust myself. I don't trust my my intuition on this. I don't trust how I'm like translating the situation. I don't trust that I'm capable of holding whatever this is if it falls apart. It's a trust question. And it's not even so much a trust question, at least for me, it's not usually a trust question between me and my partner. It's a trust question between me and myself. And that can lead back to so many things. Like if you in your childhood were taught to stuff your emotions, to, or maybe your parents would say, like, you seem healthy enough to go to school, but in your body, you're like, I feel ill. I don't feel good. But, an adult or someone outside of you that's supposedly more wise than you, maybe with the most well-meaning intentions, say, you look fine. You can go to school. We learn to override the ability to trust our gut and our wisdom and our body's experience. And when that happens, it creates these little tears in the fabric of our self-trust. And that shows up most robustly. Those tears show up most robustly in relationship, I believe, which is why relationships are such a powerful breeding ground for us to learn about ourselves. I don't think relationships are always meant to be the coziest, most comfortable place. They're meant to be a place, it's like a mirror holding up to ourselves. And that's why I think we need to be kind to each other. If we can be a kind mirror, but an honest mirror, we help each other grow. Because those tears, those little times where people told you in big and small ways to doubt yourself, show up in the fabric of who you are and how you navigate the world, and how when something means that you're stepping into a new space of your power, that's most of the time when we start to feel those cracks. And so what I was really sitting with my friend and both of us together is the shame that comes from feeling like an insecure person. Just means it's being mean to yourself when you're already kind of standing on, unstable ground. It's like trying to push yourself when you're standing on one leg. Why would you do that? Why do we do that to ourselves? It's almost as if we think if we're the ones that push ourselves over, then it will hurt less because it doesn't come from an outside source, which then again leads me back to where the original wound usually comes from, is when we're young, we feel something, we notice something, we try to vocalize something, and the people around us don't see it, hear it, feel it, believe it. And so we start to slowly not believe ourselves. And what ends up happening then is when, for example, if like one of my partners does something that is outside of something I am used to having in my life, even if they're being really kind or really understanding or, really easeful, if I'm used to tension and chaos and stress, seeing that other side, feeling the thing that's new, even if it's the healthy thing that I want, can startle this internal reflux of, can I trust what I'm seeing? Can I trust that it's actually this good? Can I trust that it's that this will hold up weight? Can I trust that I won't look foolish if I lean in and actually enjoy what this is? If I let this come in, if I let this impact me, is this going to help mend some of those tears, or is this going to create a new one? And what it is it's this feeling of, can I hold whatever the outcome is? Am I capable of showing up in a big way for myself, regardless of the outside world? And I think that what ends up happening is when we say things like, I feel insecure, it oftentimes the other person takes it personally. It's like, well, or we'll ask them, change what you're doing so I can feel less insecure, which basically means go back to the status quo. I also want to pause and say that this is not a way of explaining away abuse or unhealthy relationships or, perpetual harm. This is literally staying in the lane of, the healthy nuances of learning to heal in relationships, the relationship with ourselves and relationship with others that are doing their best to show up in integrity, in kindness, for your best. So yeah, just that little PSA that that unfortunately feels like it needs to be said whenever we talk about relationships. But I digress. So what I'm learning through this next kind of stage and step for myself is something that one of my partners says. He's like, I when I'm feeling insecure and I say, I'm feeling insecure and I'm really sorry. And I want to like trace it back to the origin story because I don't want him to think it's his fault. And I also, one of my wounds growing up was that oftentimes people, because I didn't present as over the top, upset or over the top ill or over the top whatever, people often didn't believe me if I said that I was feeling something. And so I learned to not believe myself either. It was like, well, I'm probably fine. And one of the things I know about my family is we don't take sick days, which is not cool. Like, take your sick days, please take your sick days. And so I went into my normal pattern of, I'm feeling insecure, but don't worry. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to make it, and make it make sense. That way I, again, like the first step back into my power, the space that I know and understand. And number two, it will make it so hopefully you won't feel like I'm blaming you or, whatever, because that starts a whole other cycle of things in my head. And he said the kindest thing to me. He goes, I want you to know I already believe you. And he goes, well, there's two things we can do. We can either figure out the why, or we can help you feel better. And he was like, the why is sometimes important. Again, this isn't a license to bypass everything and just stay in like love and light and goo. But for people like me and like a lot of my clients too, part of where we found safety and part of how we found security, to not feel insecure was knowing the why and this like perpetual, like Lord of the Rings style quest for the why. But, my partner was saying he was just like, sometimes tracing the rabbit trail down of figuring out the why actually can cause pain because then you're reliving that story again. And it's like, sometimes it's really important to share the story and it's like, I'm always here to listen. But in this moment, what would it feel like if we just both got to spend time with the feeling of insecurity, and how can we help you step back into a space of feeling secure? Because that's something that we can do together. You don't have to do it by yourself. Cue internal, like deer in the headlights, what in the world look on my face. It's like, I didn't realize that was an option. So yeah, and that was when I realized that what he was helping me do was co-regulate back to a place of feeling trust within myself and trust within the dynamic of us being able to have a conversation about what was happening. And so I didn't have to, cloak away my quote, bad insecurity or whatever. Instead, I just got to be with the fact that I was leveling up in a way within myself and also within that dynamic. And he modeled that doesn't have to be scary or isolating. It can actually be something that's really beautiful and very expansive. And when our nervous system is allowed to move into the tend and befriend section or way of being, it allows the parasympathetic nervous system to kick back in, which allows rest and digest. It allows the part of the brain that thinks about logical and cognitive reasoning to step back online. So instead of moving from a space of scarcity and fear, we can move from a place of brave integrity and purpose. Now, my new quest with myself is when I feel that insecurity, I want to see it as purposeful. I want to see it as a moment of bravery where I can step in and share a little bit more about myself, and trust that at the end of the day, for me, I'm 41 years old. I have been playing this Rubik's Cube game of being a human for 41 years, and I've gone through a lot of things, and I'm sure you have too. I'm sure you have too. Whew. I know that you have too. And so this is a reminder that nothing has stopped you in the past. You are not stuck in whatever had happened before. And I know that because you're here listening to this podcast now. Whatever obstacle thought that it was the thing that was going to fully take you out before, it was not the thing. It didn't succeed. We have living proof of that because your beautiful smile still exists in the world, and the way that your eyes sparkle when you really enjoy something, and your laugh, and even just you taking breaths of air is proof that that last obstacle was not the thing that took you down. So as you're navigating insecurity and there's that moment of like, is it actually safe? Is it actually safe to believe? Is it actually safe to start to retrust myself? Is it safe to go back in and like in that fragmentation or that feeling of like, I'm trying to retrust myself again? Sometimes we need to even ask, what age was it that first infraction, that first tear in the fabric of our ability to trust ourselves came in? And then maybe that part of us needs to be held by either the older version of us, for example, if it was my third grade self that was feeling this, like the first part of not really trusting myself, and I remembered that, then me as an adult can like go through kind of steps of a meditation or have a practitioner come in and help you hold that part of you, the adult part and the third grade part of you. That's a big part of the work that I do with somatic body work and somatic coaching, is finding those obstacles, finding those fragmented parts and spaces, those younger versions, and giving them the thing that they actually needed to begin with so that they can feel more secure, less insecure, right? It's co-regulation. It's how we're wired. It's using the magic power of our body's internal systems for good. Because, I feel like so often people are quick to talk about, well, I'm in fight or flight. That's awesome. That's a state. It's not your permanent address. There can be seasons where it feels like you're operating in a lot of that. But for us to consistently tell ourselves, I am fight or flight, is not doing us any favors. We need these co-regulations. We need these moments of insecurity that let us know that we're stepping into something potentially bigger than we ever have before. And we need safe places to co-regulate and relearn to trust that inner voice. I'll put my link in the show notes. I'm so passionate about this right now because in our world, in our country, I'm not going to go into a big bits of it, but there is so much insecurity about what the next steps of so many things are. It feels like the rug is being just perpetually pulled out from under us. And so what we need so desperately is to come home to ourselves, to this level of self-trust, to move from looking for the outside to tell us if we're safe, to tell us if we can trust our intuition, to trust our ability to get back up when something hurts, and also our ability to trust relationship and community, to be part of that holding, to be part of that healing. We need that more than ever. I believe that with every fiber of my being. So words like insecurity, also words like jealousy. Jealousy is another emotion that gets sort of the waggle your finger and, oh no, like look at her, she's this hothead jealous person, or look at him, he won't let her out of the house because he's feeling blah, blah, blah. We shame these emotions and we make them small. We make them have to sit in the back seat. And I will tell you, the thing about emotions and back seats is it's kind of like if you have a kid in the back seat that needs something, they'll say, mom, mom, mom. It'll start small and it will just get louder. It will get louder until those fruit snacks are in their hand. It will get louder until the perfect Miss Rachel song is on the radio. It will get louder until you listen. And the thing about jealousy is not a bad thing. Jealousy is another trip in your body that says, there is something that I'm witnessing outside, and I'm realizing that I wish that that was a part of my world too. There's a desire. There's a, maybe it's the first time that you even knew that you're like, oh my gosh, like, I think I do want a relationship, or maybe I do want to be in a different type of work environment, or maybe I do want to be a mother, or maybe I do wish that I had a cat, or maybe I do wish that I wrote a book. Or the step one is the noticing, right? It's the like, oh, I do wish that this is something in my life. The next step is to say, what is a way that I can start moving towards whatever that is in my life, right? Because your body's saying, this is something that I would enjoy. This is something I would like. And we need to stop shaming certain emotions because they are just going to get louder, and things like jealousy can feed into feelings of insecurity, because if we shove the jealousy down, if we don't listen to the thing that it's asking for, maybe it's just saying, I just want some attention. Isn't that wild how bad we've made it seem that if someone just wants attention, that, that's a problem, or that you're needy, or that you're a problem, or the whatever. We've shamed so many human experiences and pathologized them and turned them into problems. And so people don't feel like they can trust themselves, which leads to insecurity and then a double dose of shame. And then by the time you're done, people are reacting and reactive in ways that are harmful because we haven't listened to the small little voices and the small little needs and the small moments that, like, jealousy was trying to be our teacher to say, this is something new and sparkly and interesting that you would like in your life. Go find that. Here's some purpose. Here's some curiosity. Here's this. When we don't shame the emotion, we don't make it small, we allow space for us to trust that that's a thing that we need. And then the next step is to trust that we have capability to meet that need. And also, part of that can be gaining support. It can be, booking a call with me and just having a conversation and feeling heard sometimes can be huge. Having someone be present with you, having someone that speaks the language of your body and knows how to help deconstruct some of these elements of shame and pain that can help lead back to self-trust and away from this minimization that we do all the time. That's what needs to happen. That's what I'm learning from the do we need to know the why, or can we help you feel better first? That's what that's saying is, can we help you get back to a state of being regulated? And can we help you get back into a space of stability and where you trust yourself? Because from there, you are present and you are resourced to make next steps from a logical space and not from a reactive emotional space. Because that's the other thing too, is when we act out of a reactive emotional space, then we go into the cycle of the natural consequences that come from that. And it further keeps the story going of, I can't trust myself. Scary things happen when I do. It's like, no, scary things happen when we're basically falling forward, or like a person, like me on roller skates, basically like freaking Bambi on ice. And we can't find our footing. That's what's scary. And that starts because of the internal conversation with ourselves about, can I trust me? And can I trust that I am strong enough to be what the emotions that are? I hope all of that made sense. I hope that winding river and that unpacked something for you too, because I am so excited to move forward in a much more kind and loving way with my own insecurities as I'm rewiring from, like a lot of time being in unhealthy relationships that further tore fragments of my ability to trust myself. I'm relearning to trust myself. It's part of why I'm so passionate about the work that I do. It's part of why I'm so passionate about being with my friends as they're doing that work as well. And why I'm so passionate about also being there for you and with you as you are unraveling that, as you are moving through that, as you are needing just a still, steady voice that says, I see you showing up. Let's help you find your steady ground. Let's help you find a couple deep breaths. Let's help remind you of your strength, because this is not going to be the obstacle that's going to take you out. I trust it, because I know that you've overcome things in the past and you've gotten here to this moment. So let's do it together. Let's learn to co-regulate together and give yourself so much kindness when you're feeling insecure. Let me know in the show notes, in the comments, or over on my Instagram if this is landing for you. Let's figure out ways that we can bring that self-trust back. I'm open for the dialogue. Check the show notes for the link to book a personal one-on-one coffee style call with me, and let's get you feeling secure again. How does that sound? Thank you so much again for being here. Thank you for being someone that is willing to sit with and not just accept every thought in your head as fact, but to be willing and interested in changing the channel about these bigger concepts, because you deserve to live a vibrant life that's full and has trust for both you and others. All right, my dears, you are loved. You are seen. Thank you so much for being here. This is another episode of Change the Channel podcast.